all that.
And I got and everything working.
You're messing up.
There we go.
That's weird. Oh, I hate when she's not here.
I know, it sucks.
Well, it's boring then.
Maybe she'll join.
No. Now we're live? It doesn't. So they heard that?
Probably. Yeah, it caught us on a hot mic. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone.
She's working. I haven't heard from her. She must be working a little bit later. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Bible Prophecy and Truth Bible Study.
Welcome. So, my name is Dan. I'm the author of BibleProphecyandTruth.com. This is my lovely wife, Kelleen, who is co-hosting and chat moderating. And we usually have Diane, our sister in Christ, here, but she is working late or otherwise.
Yeah, that's usually what she's doing.
Yeah, so maybe she'll join us in a little bit, but it's time to get started. So welcome.
Yes, so make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel. Go to Rumble. Please follow us on Rumble and share this show with everyone you know. And make sure that you turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any great, fabulous uploads. And my sister is working on a blooper. Hi, Bob. He says, hi, all. Glad to see everyone.
Yes. Hey, Bob. Welcome. Glad you're here, brother.
Yeah. So she might come in at some point. I think she's working, but.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm going to share my screen like I usually do with her and move that down. So today we're going to talk about creation versus evolution, part 3. If you missed part 1 and part 2, you've missed a lot. So I'm just saying, you probably want to watch those. I'm not going to really do a review. There's just too much to go over. So I've only got just a couple of things in the news today.
Hey, Jody.
Hey, Jody, welcome. As usual, we talk about when is the end of the world and the signs that Jesus gave that would herald us coming, one of which is earthquakes in diverse places. And there was a 6.0 in Afghanistan. And the last report was that were 1,400 people were killed, 1,400, and over 3,000 injured from this.
Wow.
A 6.0. And it's, it may not seem that significant as 6.0, but I wanted to point out to you what how massive a 6.0 magnitude is. We see them a lot, but you don't usually see them causing this much death and destruction because it depends on whether it's near a populated area, that kind of thing, and the depth of it and all of that. So, but a 6.0, as you can see, is a very major earthquake. So we had a 6.0 in Alaska just today. This one was yesterday, I think. I was on the 31st.
Yeah.
Lots of loss of life from that. We're still having earthquakes where they had that 8.8. We're still having tons of them up there in that area. So, I mean, we're just watching. We're watching. And if you're new to this channel, If you go to BibleProphecyandTruth.com, scroll down to where you see this picture. That's where I talk about the signs that Jesus gave that would herald his coming. All of the signs, earthquakes have spiked so massively in the last couple of decades, that it's just mind blowing. So, but all of the signs I talk about on that. I'm not going to go over it again today. I do quite often, just kind of briefly go through that. But if you haven't seen that, there's videos that are linked on it. There's a playlist embedded at the bottom of that page. If you prefer to read, there's all kinds of charts and graphs there. So
they didn't say anything about the one in Alaska, right?
I haven't.
Because I didn't hear anything about it today.
Oh, so. No, the one that was in Alaska. No. That probably wasn't near a populated area. So, but, hey, Jay, welcome, brother.
Hey, Jay.
So there's that. Sudan also, you can see in this article, there was a landslide that leveled an entire village, killing 1,000 people. It's crazy the things that are going on in the world. And that's, Jesus said that men's hearts would be failing them for fear. And, when you look at the natural disasters reported worldwide since the 1960s, they have just so majorly spiked. And I think that that's what Jesus meant when he said that men's hearts would be failing them for fear, because these things are continuing to get more frequent and stronger. And we can fully expect it because, Jesus said that this would happen at the time of the end, and we're so there. So if you haven't seen that, please do check it out. And there's there's a little video I want to show you, just in case you didn't know that the secret society is everywhere, and there really are a lot of these people are Satan worshipers. They really are. And I'm just going to play this quick video for you because it's just so eye-opening.
Yeah, shout out to Paul Freeman for sending it.
Yeah.
Hi there, this is Sharon Duffy at the Minnesota State Capitol. It is Friday, April 4th, 2025, and I'm here to double check on what everybody's been talking about on social media, is this plaque in honor of our governor, Tim Walz. And it is from people that are supportive of his efforts. And there it is.
A Baphomet.
Imagine that.
Right here in the East Hall. Lower
in the
level.
state capitol.
And he must be okay with it.
And it reads,
it's in the state capitol. He's seen it.
Worshipers.
Well, he had it
Thanks,
installed.
Governor Tim Walz, for not standing in the way of spreading Satanism in the state capitol building. Satan has a special place for you.
Yeah,
Wow.
Satan surely does have a special place for him.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to show you that because that is really not that unusual. And then if you know anything about Tim Walz, if you've done any kind of research on him, you know that he is not a nice man by any stretch of the imagination. And, these people reach these positions because they have sacrificed to get there. And I'm not talking about personal sacrifice. They have literally sacrificed children in some cases to get positions of power, because that's what they do in the secret society. And if you're going, wait, hold on a minute, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, I would just ask that you actually research, because I used to be the kind of person that said, get your stupid conspiracy theories away from me, but now I understand that a lot of these supposed conspiracy theories are actually true. They're not conspiracy theories. They're just facts.
Yeah.
There are things that happen in the secret society with Luciferianism that would just, it's not a mind-blowing thing. It's a very disgusting thing. It's like, do people really do that kind of thing? And yes, they do. So Tim Walz, obviously, one of them. And then I wanted to mention this real briefly because I've seen this a few times. It's like, we're Trump against the deep state, all about getting rid of the illegals and all that. And I'm all for that. I don't want illegal criminals here, raping, robbing, killing, and all of that. I want to get rid of the criminals. But what happened to all the kids? The original numbers was like 300 and some thousand, and it went up to 500,000. The real numbers of how many kids are missing, the missing children. Where are they? What's going on? I haven't heard anything about them, and that's the most sad, disheartening thing about all of that open border stuff is that 500,000 children.
Child predators
went missing
or making money
missing.
Yeah.
It's horrible. That's a horrible thing. So I don't have an answer. I saw that question. I'm like, yeah, where are the kids? And then just a couple of things about politics and what's going on. Xi Jinping and India and North Korea and Russia are all getting together. They're basically ganging up on the West and saying we're gonna do things our way. They're deepening partnership. They're trying to promote BRICS and kill the U.S. dollar, and they're trying to create their own NATO type cooperative for the West is NATO is the West's cooperative, right? They're trying to create their own NATO type cooperative for the East, the whatever you want to call it. I forget there's an actual name for it, but this is stuff. What Trump's doing is like what you've talked about. We really hope that Trump brings about the Abraham Accords. It looks like that could happen very soon. There's so much moving in that direction for a peace treaty in the Middle East. But at the same time, Trump is really, really alienating the United States. He's like pushing the buttons of these people, Xi Jinping, Putin.
What about the Venezuelan stuff?
And now going into Venezuela.
And he said this is war.
Yeah. And it's war.
I'm not saying that it's bad what he's doing. I'm just saying he's making people mad.
And I agree with that. We need to stop the cartels. We need to stop all this massive drug trafficking. And because Venezuela would not work with us, he's like, we're going in there anyway. And, because I would bet you $1 million the corrupt Venezuelan government is actually making money from those cartels. So they don't want that stopped. Yeah. And I'm all for stopping that. But what I'm bringing up and what I'm talking about is just, Trump is really pissing off a lot of people in the world. And that could, you say he's going to bring about peace and war. And I really think that could happen. He could be the catalyst that causes the Abraham Accords, that causes the peace treaty to be signed, which would be the confirmation of the covenant. Most likely, if everything works out the way the confirmation of the covenant is supposed to with the Abraham Accords, that could be the final 7 years beginning. But at the same time, he might actually be the catalyst that sparks the Sixth Trumpet War as well. So, we'll see what happens. Trump says Putin, Kim, and Xi are conspiring against the U.S. Absolutely, they are.
They are. They're going to have their own oil too. They're getting a pipeline going.
Yeah. And that's what this article I think was talking about. One of them I saw was talking about the pipeline. I think it may be in this one. Yeah, Gazprom. Yeah, major gas line linking the nations. Yeah. And then I showed you a thing where the FBI were warning that Russian hackers had actually breached a lot of American utilities. And the CCP has been doing that as well for a long time and talked about that a lot on this broadcast. So I just wanted a reminder. Here's another article about CCP hacking going on. So we know that they're conspiring against not just the U.S., but the West as a whole. And one other thing, Pakistan is a nuclear nation. Pakistan is the one Muslim nation that has nuclear weapons. And he says, the Pakistan army chief says, we are a nuclear nation. If we think we're going down, we'll take half the world down with us. Oh, what an attitude. You know, if we're going down, guess what? We're going to blow everybody else up. That's just awful.
I mean, yeah, but I'm not shocked.
And it's, you know, they're fighting with India right now. And then
I thought there was a peace agreement or whatever.
It hasn't happened.
Well, they both put their signature on that. So
well, we'll see. But you know, this is India is also a nuclear nation, and I've talked about the Six Trumpet War and how the Six Trumpets really going to be the end of the war, because when 2 billion or 3 billion people, a third part of man, die, the war is going to be over, right? I mean, when that many people die, the war will end. And it's almost certainly going to be a nuclear exchange to make that happen. To kill that many people, it would really have to be. So India and Pakistan, nuclear nations, right there by China. And, you know, of course, Iran is the fuse that's lit right now. So that's all I got for the news. Just a couple of things. Just, you know, we're waiting to see how all these things are going to play out, because we know from Scripture, we know that all of the things the Bible said would happen will happen. We know there's going to be a war that will kill a third part of man. We know there's going to be a peace treaty signed in the Middle East, specifically with Israel. We know that all of the signs that Jesus said would herald us coming are happening right now. I mean, there's just so much. But I've talked a lot about that in recent lives, and we're going to now switch over to what we've been talking, part 3 of creation versus evolution. And we've been through, you know, we've talked a lot about the lies, how evolution's lies, and I've shown you in many, many ways that the lies that they teach, and how they don't even care that their own theories are disproven. They don't even care that they're lying to us. Thank you, honey. Thank you. They don't even care that they're lying to us. Most of them know, and they don't even care, because it keeps their fellowships and their grants and their job for them. A lot of them just want to believe because they don't want to believe in God. So the alternative is evolution, even though everything that we've looked at in the last 2 lives proves that evolution is just a farce. It's ridiculous. And so now we're looking at what the Bible actually says about the creation. And we talked a little bit about, you know, how God said everything was good at the beginning, how there's no break between verse 1 and verse 2. It's just a blanket statement. And then here's the details of how I did that kind of thing, right? It's not, there's no billions of years there. The earth did not exist and then became corrupt. The earth didn't even exist before creation. Before verse 2, the earth was without form and void. It was empty. It did not exist. It wasn't there. And then God created everything. And I talked a little bit about the firmament and how God created the layers of firmament, and it created the dry land, which when God created the firmament and the land, that was when God created the entire universe, the matter of the universe. There was light. He created light, and then he created the matter of the universe. He created a firmament, which is really everything in the universe. And, we think of space in between planets and in between solar systems and in between galaxies that's empty. But it's really not completely empty. There's a firmament in the entire universe. And I'm going to talk more about that today, because that is a very, very interesting part of the creation. And it's the very next chapter that we're going to go into. But there's just a couple of things that I left off here when we stopped. And, I talked about what God says about creation. I said, all flesh is not the same flesh, right? The Bible tells us this specifically. And I know there's a lot of people that say they're Christians but they believe in evolution, that it fits with the Bible. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't. All flesh is not the same flesh. There's one kind of flesh of man, another flesh of beasts, another fishes, another of birds. And there's no time span from the creation to billions of years to end up with men, right? As in evolution, right? Man is like the last thing, right? There's billions and billions of years of evolution, and then only in the last couple million years has men been around, right? According to evolution. Well, here in Mark it says, from the beginning of the creation, God made man, male and female. From the beginning of the creation. He didn't set things up and then let everything go for billions of years. He created everything, and he did it in 6 days. Ezekiel, the thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. I mean, there's lots of instances in the Bible where it proves that there is no evolution in the Bible. And people that claim to be Christians that say that just haven't even read their Bible, apparently, because it disputes it itself. And God made everything in 6 days. 6 days. 6 literal days. And that's one of the things that we talk about is, when God created the sun, he did it on the 4th day.
Yeah.
But the plants were created on the 3rd day. So if there were thousands or millions of years in between the 3rd and the 4th day, how did the plants survive? They would not have survived without the sun. The sun was created on the 4th day. It was the next day. I mean, there's just so many things about the creation. And all we need to do is if we're a Christian, if we believe the Bible, then we need to just believe the Bible. We need to just believe what it says. Instead of all of these, there's so many theologists out there that twists and wrap things around and manipulate scripture and try to make all of these philosophical theories fit in with true theology. And that's where people go wrong. Instead of just believing the Bible, we like to listen to all of these theologists that are mixing philosophy with it. And if you mix philosophy, speculation with your theology, then you're basically making up what you want the Bible to be. And there's true theology, which is taking the Bible itself and taking all the different parts of the Bible that talk about a certain subject and putting them all together, and then you have the full truth. That's true theology. As soon as you start speculation and saying, well, it might mean this, and the weird thing is that most of these books that people read on all kinds of different subjects, they'll start with a philosophical theological argument right off the bat. It's like that's what they base their entire book on. Right? I've read books like that where it starts off with this philosophical theology and bases the rest of the entire book on that supposition instead of using fact to start with and building on that and building it out with the rest of the scriptures, which is what we should do. It's just, it's so, over the last couple thousand years, people have just come up with so many, twists and lies and try to mix their lie with the truth. And, that's what Satan's really good at.
Even back when we were children, and I'm talking 50 years ago, when we were children, there were the traditional belief systems, but I hate to use this word, but they have evolved. And now the churches that we grew up in are just accepting what 50 years ago they were calling sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like those churches are not the same anymore. I mean, they really aren't. There used to be a time where they would really preach, what did they say it? Fire and damnation.
Yeah.
Where
Hell
they
and
would
brimstone,
actually preach like really hard doctrine, and they don't. It's just so different now.
Yeah.
Like they're just accepting,
And
gay.
That's
people,
what's happened to the church over the years, right? They compromise, right? They compromise on a little thing just to make their people happy so they won't leave. And then they compromise again on something else. And then they compromise on something else. And then the compromises go further and further and further. And now they're so far from the truth that the church is completely apostate.
Yeah.
It's the Protestant / Lutheran / Baptist / whatever churches today are really all just,
they're just kind of
baby Catholic
morphing
churches.
into like the same thing. Like there is no difference in the denominations anymore.
They're little baby Catholic churches is what they are. They're the daughters of the great whore is what they really are. It's Catholic churchianity is what it is. The churches today are really just Catholics with a different name.
But
they believe that church saves you,
And I came from, I'm a boomer. So, we remember a time when things were sinful, and now they're not sinful. They're embraced.
You can't call out sin. Yeah.
Well, and they're in churches now are embracing those things that were very clearly called out as sin.
Yes. In the Bible. Yeah.
And we don't know what to, so I think a lot of boomers are breaking away from the churches.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of boomers that we know watch the Bible study and they're just not in church anymore because they're just watching all this falling apart.
And the really sad thing is, the Gen Zers are all, there's this big thing about how the Gen Zs are all turning to the Bible, turning to God, but they're not.
They're in these churches.
Catholicism.
Yeah.
It's not true Christianity. It's churchianity. It's Catholicism. It's Catholic churchianity. And that's what they're turning to.
Well, they're turning to the churches that now have morphed into these, sinful, where they're accepting sin. So that's their idea of what church should be. is
Yeah.
accepting everybody in their sin. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
exactly.
And nobody's calling sin out anymore. And these are the churches that they're all going to.
Yeah. And I saw an article, just was looking at earlier today. I didn't put it on my list, but it was a chart showing how like literally 20% of Gen Zers identify as LGBT or
Yes.
some variation
It's almost
of that.
like a fad.
20%.
Yeah.
That's a huge number compared to, even the millennials are not near that. Yeah. That's that we have what we've done. What we have literally done is destroy an entire generation. We've destroyed an entire generation. And everybody's screaming about the birth rates and how population is stagnating, and now the next generation they're not going to have any babies. And what's going to happen? Well,
yeah,
I'm glad.
Yeah, the population.
I said I'm glad. I don't want you to think I'm glad of that. I'm glad that Jesus is coming back soon, and to put an end to all of this. That the wickedness of man has destroyed this earth horribly, and I'm glad the Lord will be coming back soon.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Diane?
Well, yeah, and she's sending me an audio text. I'm like, I can't listen to the audio
We're
text.
live right
You're
now.
supposed to be here,
She
and you're
can
sending me
type, can't she?
I was just like,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I said, just come in
maybe she's
whenever you're
having
ready.
problems connecting or something.
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Should I listen to it?
Yeah, just play it real quick.
We're live.
Yeah, I know. Listening to a voicemail.
I just got home.
Oh, she just got home. Okay.
Yeah.
I will be online.
All right. So she'll
Okay.
probably be joining us soon.
Yeah. Yeah, she said she'll be on in a sec.
All right. So one of the things is, evolutionists believe that humans will eventually evolve into an all-powerful godlike being. And this is what is the allure of so many people. People like that idea. When I was an atheist and I thought about evolution and life, and it's like, well, if there is an afterlife, then I want to be some kind of godlike being, right?
Yeah,
and,
of course.
But that's because that's basic human pride, and and that's why there's so many false religions that teach that you're going to be like Hinduism, Buddhism, right? Universalism, all of these religions, the vast majority of false religions teach that you're gonna evolve into a god someday. That's Satan's greatest lie, right? What's the first lie he ever told?
Did God really say that?
Well, that's what the first question he asked Eve.
Oh.
But what's the first lie he said? He said you can be as gods. That's what he told Eve.
Yeah.
That's the same lie that he uses today to lure people away from the truth. You can be a god. Yeah.
And it sure didn't take very long.
Well, he understands the pride of man, and he capitalizes on that big time.
Bob says, I always felt bad I never had kids, but in these days, glad I didn't.
Yeah, I hear you. I know what you mean, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
I would hate to have kids right now, like growing up right now.
Oh, I know.
The things that they have to. I would have homeschooled.
I would homeschool today. There's no way. Yeah. So then just another little argument that people make before we get into the firmament is some people say that the Bible says that man was made, and it doesn't mean he was created. Like he was made. God didn't create man, he made man. Well, and it could have been an evolutionary process that God put in place. This is just one of the arguments that I hear. Well, here's a scripture that basically puts an end to that argument, right? In Genesis 1:26, it says God made man. But in verse 27, it says he created man. And Genesis chapter 2, it says he formed man. So we have all three. He was made, he was created, he was formed. Isaiah 43. Everyone is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, yea, I have made him.
You just covered all the bases.
The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life,
Which
and
is a
man
soul.
became a living soul.
Yeah,
God created us
sure did.
on the sixth day from the beginning of the creation. And he didn't just make us an accident. He didn't let us randomly evolve. He created us in his own image. In the image of God is how we were created. We're not an accident. We're not some random chance thing. We are created in the image of God. We're a very special creation of God. We're the first fruits of God's creation.
I hate when people just like put themselves down. That really, really, especially people who are Christians. I think putting yourself down when you truly love Jesus, don't be doing that. Because you're special
You're a child
to God.
of God.
You are. You're a child of the King.
Yes.
And he didn't create you to be so awful. Hi, David. God doesn't.
Hey, David. God doesn't look like a monkey.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
He does not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that people who truly love God should be battering themselves like that, because they're just like, I hate myself. You can hate sin. Like I hate my own sin. And when I'm praying, I'm like, Lord, I hate that I don't do what I'm supposed to be doing sometimes. But to hate
yourself,
my body or to hate myself as who I am is just not good. Because we're created very precious. We're very precious to God.
We are created in the image of God. And we need to remember that. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome.
So we're just wrapping up on the biblical creation. So glad you could be here. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're late.
I know,
we're just
she's
glad
working.
you're here.
If she's not here, it's because she's working.
Yeah, I forgot the time that I'm usually on at 5:00 my time.
Yeah.
But I got 5:30.
Yeah, but it's okay because
That's
we're
all
still
right.
going to run the show. And if you forget or whatever, that's no big deal.
But we did miss you. So we're glad
we
you're
always
here.
miss you.
Right.
I always miss you.
So that's pretty much, I wanted to cover the remaining things on that document and just, kind of dispel some more of the lies of Satan, the lies that man try to spout, that people that argue. God created man in his image. We're not randomly and accidentally evolved.
Yeah.
We're created in the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about when is the end of the earth, or how old is the earth. We talked about that before. So I'm not going to go over that again, but I do want to invite everyone to watch this video as Genesis history, because it's just so good. It's a really, really good documentary on the science data that we find in the earth. And
Bob said we did miss you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
thank you.
Oh.
So we're on chapter 24 of creation versus evolution section of my website on BibleProphecyandTruth.com. So I have the link there. Also, easy way to find that video is if you go to videos.prophecyandtruth.com, go to the BP&T video book, and then they all go to the same page, but they all go to a separate section, which is every chapter of my book. I've made a video format of it. So you can virtually read my book by watching videos. Then we have the 3-part creation versus evolution series
Which
that
is
Diane
really
did.
good.
Really, really good stuff. And then this
Yeah.
video is
I might
also
go back and
embedded
watch
here.
those over.
Yeah,
'Cause
they're really good.
Really good. Mhm.
So all of that is right here on this, on videos.prophecyandtruth.com. So check that out. And let's go ahead and dive into the firmament. This is one of my favorite subjects because this is just, when you really look at the firmament and what God says that he did in the creation, it's really fascinating. And I got to bring up the Bible here so we can go look at these as we're talking about them, because it's important to understand the layers and everything about the layers and overlays, basically.
Guys, it's 1 a.m. in the morning.
Oops, sorry.
Ah!
It's like, what was that? It's really, to me, it's fascinating, and it's really important to understand what all this means. So let's talk about the layers. So verse 20, right? It says, God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. So what does that say? There's a layer of the firmament that is our atmosphere, the one that the birds fly in. That is one of the layers of the firmament, the open firmament of heaven, right? There's a lot of weird beliefs about the firmament and what it really means. And so that's why I'm pointing this out. There's many, many layers to the firmament. It's layers and overlays. And if you look at what the word firmament means, it's this Old Testament Hebrew rakia, which is properly an expanse. And it comes from the root of the raka, a primitive root by implication to overlay. So what is the firmament? It's layers of expanses, overlaid expanses. Because when you think about it, when you look at that verse we just read, the birds fly in one of the layers of the open firmament of heaven.
They still do?
Yes. It's our atmosphere. The layer that the birds fly in is our atmosphere. That's one of the layers. So when you think of the firmament, it's really from the surface of the earth and outward.
And then
all directions.
Planes are in a different layer.
Well, it's still part of our atmosphere. Our atmosphere actually has 6 layers to it. So each layer is like a different part of our atmosphere. The birds fly in the bottom part, of course. The planes fly in upper layers, but they're all part of our atmosphere.
Right.
But then even when you get beyond our atmosphere, I think I have a picture here, of the different, the troposphere, the different sphere, the different layers of our atmosphere. And then you've got space. Actually, there's only 5 layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then you've got the solar system is another layer, right? Seriously, it is. The entire universe is the layers of the firmament.
Why did people think that hell was in the center of the earth? Remember hearing that?
Well, because it's supposed to be like fiery hot. And then in the Bible, it does talk about the depths, right? The depths of hell. And, so they translate
only
that
speculation.
into, right, being in the earth, and it's not. Hell is actually a different, it's like a different dimension.
Yeah.
It's a different
So-
reality.
So the center of the earth is just rock and stuff?
It's molten.
Oh.
Yes. There's nothing there. It's just molten. But hell itself is a different dimension.
Yeah.
It's
Where
your
angels
soul,
are and stuff
it's
too.
where your soul goes, right? Right.
Mhm.
And angels, well, the angels that sinned are in the lowest abyss of Hades, right? They're chained, reserved there until the day of judgment.
But
Mhm.
And that's what there's a lot of people that teach that fallen angels are demons in the world. Well, the angels that sinned in Genesis are all chained in the lowest abyss of Hades and Tartarus,
Yeah.
as Peter tells us. They're chained there, reserved for judgment.
And their offspring are evil spirits. In
The
world.
offspring of them are the evil spirits that are in the earth. Exactly. And there are angels that follow Satan, definitely, but the evil spirits, the demons that are in the world, are the offspring of those angels. When you look at the time frame of the angels coming and then the flood, and we get more information from the book of Enoch about that specifically. There's a lot of information about the angels that sinned in Enoch, and they probably had millions and millions of children while they were here, because they came and they appeared as men, and we became in the image of men, so much so that they could have children with women. And the Bible says they did, and they were mighty men and giants before the flood.
And they found skeletal remains of giant men.
Yeah.
That's in one of the parts of my videos.
Yeah.
The video series.
I
Yeah.
really, really, really do recommend to go
Watching
watch
those. Yeah, definitely.
because they took up, because like Dan did the Bible study, and then my sister went in and just like broke it apart and like added like all information. And
she found videos that documented and corroborated everything I'm talking about.
So good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. If you haven't seen it.
It took her a long time to do it. Like she really worked hard on that.
Yeah. And you can actually get to those from many places. If you go to the BibleProphecyandTruth.com and go to any one of these first chapters, it's linked right there.
Yeah.
So you can just click on that.
We had so much fun. I had so much fun with that because you talked about things that were even funny.
Yeah.
You know, like the world going around super fast. I got a video of a kid flying off a merry-go-round.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
David said Islam must be, what did he say?
Possessed by these dark children.
Islam.
And that's one thing that you probably remember I've talked about on this live many times, David, is that the jinn of the Arabs, right? The Muslims are almost certainly demons, and they are very real. And there's a lot, it's hard to really find documentation that you can really prove and you can chalk it up as, that's absolute fact. But I've read and heard and seen videos and testimonies from people a lot about the massive amount of demonic activity that happens in the Muslim world.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there's a massive amount of demons possessing Muslims in the Muslim world.
Yeah, we were just watching a video on Instagram of this guy who was in the UK, and he was taking this video of just a normal little grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so chaotic with so many Muslims in there that it did not look like the UK. if I turned the sound off, I would think it was someplace like Afghanistan or Iran or someplace like that. He said, "Where are my people? Where are the people that look like me?"
Because they're
And they were
literally
just running
taking
around
over
and
Europe
tripping
right now.
over everybody and just rushing around with their carts and just like they
And
were
that's the
just
thing.
chaotic.
You know, it's like Muslims love like violence.
Yeah.
Just
That's what
like
David just said.
evil.
They
Yeah,
love
to kill.
It
Yeah.
makes sense. Oh, they were like
Yeah.
literally like pushing each other out of the way. There was no rhyme or reason. They were just running around like chickens with their heads cut off. I'd never seen anything so chaotic. And like he said, if you didn't know that this was a UK, you would think it was a third world.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, and
So yeah, definitely watch those videos.
That's
if you get a
demonic.
chance. And yeah, it's definitely demonic. And we talk so much about Muslims on this channel because the Antichrist is almost, and I in my own mind and my own heart and my own understanding know that the Antichrist is going to be a Muslim. I can't tell you you have to believe that, but study it for yourself, because when you look at biblical prophecy and you look at the world right now and you look at the prophecies of like Daniel 2, for example, where we see that last 5th section is the Holy Roman / Islamic Ottoman empires. And you know that that's what's going to be in power and what the Antichrist is going to use. And then everything about the 7th beast of Daniel 7, the green horse of the Zechariah and Revelation. There's just so many things that point to Islam being the religion of the Antichrist. It's so obvious.
Get going there.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
So check that out. On my notes menu, if you haven't seen this before, BibleProphecyandTruth.com, under the notes menu, go to Islam and the Bible and start there. That will, if you've never seen any of this stuff, that will actually blow your mind. That will be quite an eye opener for you. It certainly was for me when I first learned about it. So let's go on with the firmament, though, and the layers. Now, and let's look at verses 9 and 10, because we're talking about the layers, right, and what they are. So if we go to 9 and 10, God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. So there's waters under, right? There's waters under. God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And we know that the atmosphere is also, right? The atmosphere that the birds fly in is one of the layers of the open firmament of heaven. So when we see this, that there's waters above and waters below, and the waters that are on the earth are not the waters. See, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear.
Mm-hmm.
That is the creation of matter. Everybody thinks that that's when God just spread out the waters on the earth, and then so dry land was appeared. But that's not what that means. And he called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas, and God saw that it was good. But this is a much broader implication than just because the earth did not exist until this, right? There was a firmament made in the midst of the waters that divided the waters from the waters, because the waters here is the waters of creation. This is not oceans.
Okay.
The firmament is the waters of creation, just like Daniel saw these beasts rising up out of the sea in the prophecy in Daniel 7, right? Well, that sea is the waters of creation. It's kingdoms that arise in the creation that God made. This has a much broader implication than just the oceans were separated and land appeared. It's much, much broader than that. This is the creation of matter in the universe. He created the firmament, which the firmament is the matter of the universe. And then, verses 14 through 17 tell us about another layer, right? God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so.
The stars.
And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also.
Mm-hmm.
And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and to rule over the night, to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So there's a layer of the firmament that has the sun and the moon, right? Now remember, the first thing God did was create light.
So he could see what he was doing.
No,
That makes sense.
he doesn't
I gotta
have
have a light here.
he doesn't have eyes like we do. He doesn't need
I
light
know.
to reflect
I know.
off of things.
I know.
I know you're just being funny, but
He doesn't have eyes.
but the point I'm making is that he created light, but he didn't create the sun, moon, and stars yet.
Mhm.
So God made light, but then he made the sun, moon, and stars to give light upon the earth. And there's so many people that say, well, there's galaxies that are 15 billion light years away. So we had to have been, since we can see the light, then we had to have been in existence for 15 billion years in order for that light to reach us.
Might have.
Well, but hold on.
It's not.
God created light,
That's what I'm saying.
and he created it in place. He didn't need for it to take 15 billion years to reach us. He created it in place. He created the light as it is today. And then 6 through 8, I already read that, where there's a firmament in the midst, and there's waters under, and there's waters above. And that's so true. People explain it in their own understanding, and that's the problem is we try to understand it. And if we take what God said and apply that to our logic, then we can kind of see what he says he did. And he created all these layers. He created all these things. We don't understand it, not by any stretch, but we can at least understand what he told us. And we can understand as much as is possible from our human understanding. And there's waters above, there's waters that divide the waters from the waters. So there's multiple waters here, right? There are the seas that are on the earth, but then there's multiple waters. The firmament divides the waters from the waters, plural, plural. And there are many layers that are divided. Remember, verse 7 says there's waters under and waters above. And the firmament is an expanse, an overlays of expanses. It's how God created all of the layers of the matter of the universe and put everything in motion when he did so. I mean, this is when you think about all the implications of these little things, that if we have to pay attention to all the words and all the implications that we see here. And, it's impossible for us to get it and totally understand it. I already said that.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, they
but
do
he's given us enough information to know what he did and how in our limited understanding.
All right.
And a lot of people,
So people can speculate, but they just need to look at the facts in the Bible.
yeah. And, part of what you're saying, David, I think, is that people try to explain it in their own understanding, but they don't really even pay attention to what God said, and they try to make it say what they think because that's how they understand it. But we need to listen to everything God says.
Mhm.
Just like prophecy, just like truth, just like everything else in the Bible, we've got to listen to God and put off our own understanding and our heart and our feelings and just listen to God and believe what he says and let the Bible interpret itself.
Mhm.
That's the only way to get to the truth.
Yeah.
So the firmament is it's kind of fascinating when you think about it, because it's multiple layers. There's waters that we don't even know what those waters are. We know that the waters itself is the waters of creation, because there's the spirit and the water and the blood.
Yeah.
And these three agree in one.
Couldn't it also mean that he had water on the earth, like seas?
Well, yes. Yeah, because
Not divided by the waters above.
right, because there's multiple layers of waters, and one of the layers is the seas on the earth. Yes, definitely. Yeah, but people, a lot of people's misunderstanding about that is that that's the only waters, the waters on the earth, and that's not so. That's what I'm pointing out here, is that there's multiple waters. There's layers, and there's waters above and waters under. And that's what we need to understand as much as we possibly can. And so when we talk about those layers, it becomes really, really interesting when we start looking at what happened at the flood. And we look at what was life like before the flood. There's lots of examples of what life was like before the flood. And I've got like this here, where they found fossilized tree sap with air trapped in it. So it's an air bubble in tree sap that fossilized. And so we can look at the air inside that bubble, and we can see what the air was like in that bubble before it became rock.
Bob has a question. He says, are those the same waters under the earth in Noah's flood?
Well, some of them, yes. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But the waters, the fountains of the great deep, those are definitely waters as well, yes. But they're the waters that were in the earth, under the earth. But there's also waters in multiple layers and multiple firmament layers that God created. So back to this, the air analyzed in that fossilized tree sap showed that there was 50% more oxygen. 50% more oxygen.
Wow.
Which is really, really good for optimal health. Because one of the things that they use, and I'm skipping down a little bit, but one of the things they use today for healing is a thing called a hyperbaric chamber, where it's pressurized oxygen therapy is what they call it, where the oxygen is double the PSI, or the oxygen is 50% higher, and the pressure is double our atmospheric pressure, like our current atmospheric pressure times 2, and increased oxygen. And what it does is people heal really fast, really fast. They use it for sports teams. When their star player gets hurt, they put him in a hyperbaric chamber so that he can heal really fast and get back to playing the game. It's something that's very common.
I bet that list has been updated
because it's a very old list.
Yeah, it's just should be a given.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's many more teams. That's just some examples. But that's one of the things they use is pressurized oxygen therapy. So the reason I look at all of these,
would that help somebody who has cancer or something?
Yeah,
of course it could. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. If we could afford it, if you had cancer, and you could afford to basically live in a hyperbaric chamber, you could probably be cured of cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to live in it for a while.
Yeah, and it would be very expensive. It's not something that's cheap.
Didn't when we saw the creation museum, they were saying how much it was going to cost them because they were going to buy one.
That's one of the reasons we went.
$500,000.
We went to the Creation Evidence Museum in Texas, and I really wanted to see their hyperbaric chamber there because they had a small one, but when we went to visit, they actually had. The small one was gone, and they were in the process of building a big, huge one. And
people could go in there,
and it was very expensive. But
like
it's
$500,000, right?
I don't remember, but yeah, it was very expensive.
Really expensive.
So it's something that I'd like to go back there and see.
Would that be
find out if it's
amazing?
done and go back there? Yeah.
All your little aches and pains just sitting there for an hour,
and one thing they found is that in hyperbaric chambers, animals will grow much bigger. They'll grow faster and grow larger than they do living outside of it in our normal atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so the hyperbaric chamber gives us some evidence of what the earth would have been like before the flood. We know for a fact that there was 50% more oxygen in the atmosphere.
Jody said they used to have one at the hospital.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
in
they're
the
really
video,
good.
it shows that they have a hyperbaric chamber that you can rent or something when a group of people to help cover the cost of it, and they can go in there and sit for a little bit to see what it's like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but if you were to actually spend, like, if you were to sleep every night in a hyperbaric chamber, it would do wonders for your health.
That would be a nice person.
But that would be so expensive. You'd have to buy one yourself pretty much to do that.
Yeah, but I don't know if I could sleep in the tube.
Well, if you had enough money, you could just make a big enough one where you could just put your bed in there, and have it your room, basically. But that would be very, very expensive to do that. So, so I brought that all up because when we look at the layers of the earth, the atmosphere, and we look at what happened at the flood, the fountains of the great deep were opened up, and the waters of the windows of heaven were opened, and the waters came pouring down. And I this is one of the things that people argue about all the time. Well, that's impossible. I say no, nothing's impossible for God.
Right.
Everything that we've seen, like the animals that were frozen in place, how did that happen, right? When the windows of heaven were opened, the super cold of space came down with all that water and froze things instantly.
Ouch.
And that's one of the things that we look at when we study this is the magnetic fields of the earth took violent swings 4,400 years ago. Well, what happened 4,400 years ago? The flood. And if you didn't know this, water or ice at 300 degrees below zero becomes magnetic.
Yeah.
So when the super cold of space came down with the water, with the windows of heaven, and froze solid, and it was 300 degrees below zero or more, and it was magnetic, and that's why the Earth's magnetic field took these violent swings, and that's why the ice ended up over the poles of the planet. It's not just because the sun is less there, it's because it's magnetic, and it aligned itself over the poles. And it's been melting ever since, but we're going to talk much more about this in detail as we continue studying. But when we look at the greenhouse effect and what the Earth would have been like before the flood with a layer of water above it.
Yeah.
It would have been like a greenhouse.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't
Maybe
have
it'd be
been
so lush.
And remember, we talked about how the deep valleys of the ocean and the mountain chains were created by the flood. And that's where the water went. But if you think about, if you leveled it off a bit and removed the water, the earth is covered by 70% water right now. Before the flood, there probably wasn't nearly as much water.
Mm-mm.
There would have been a lot more land mass.
Maybe that's why they live longer too, because it was such
Well, and that's the whole
good
point.
living conditions.
Yes. With double the atmospheric pressure, which is what they figure, if this is true, that there was a canopy, that there was a layer of water that was let loose by God to flood the earth, along with the fountains of the great deep, that there would have been double the PSI and 50% higher oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The whole earth was a hyperbaric chamber. Everything was living in a virtual hyperbaric chamber that God created.
Who was the longest dude that lived?
964
He was
years,
a- I
I
bet he
think,
was a
was
runner.
Methuselah.
I think he was a runner.
He might have been.
I bet he loved to exercise.
Yeah.
Jody
Running
says
from those
Orlando.
dinosaurs.
The Orlando Magic players would use that.
And
And-
David says, God can make it rain as much as he wants, just like he fed the 5,000.
That's right.
Just like
Yeah.
the plagues.
Plagues and all his miracles.
Oh, yeah, the plagues.
The
Yeah. The plagues.
The
Yeah.
plagues.
Yes. And that's a very good point, David. God could do anything he wants, right?
That's right.
Just like he fed the
Is there
5,000.
anything impossible?
That's one of the
with
things
God?
that I talk about later in this series is people like to say, well, how could you feed, the flood lasted for a year. How could you have all these animals on this boat for a year and they'd run out of food? They'd be eating each other. Well, God fed 5,000 with a couple loaves of bread and some fish. He can
5
certainly
loaves
feed
and
the
2
animals
fish.
for a year if he wants to.
He can do
Right?
it. What's the verse? Is there anything impossible with God?
Yeah, no,
Hello.
there is nothing
He
impossible
does
for God.
things that are beyond our understanding.
That's
Yeah.
right.
When
Lean
you
not
think of
on your
things, you
own
can't
understanding.
That
Yeah.
this is impossible because mankind can't do that. No, but God can.
And he doesn't think
Yeah.
like we do.
And people look at the nature of the earth today
Yeah.
instead of considering what it might have been like before the flood.
Well, we ruined it.
Mhm.
And before the flood, there's all kinds of evidence of large
Show them.
creatures,
I wanna see that.
everything, literally. It's like, here's one about the growth rate. This is the hyperbaric chamber that they had at the Creation Evidence Museum that I wanted to see. And they actually experimented where animals grow much larger when they live inside a hyperbaric chamber. There's all kinds of enlarged, here's giant, the 12-foot
Yeah.
human skeletons, right? There's all kinds of these things. An 80-foot shark. There's giant people, right? Ohio giants that they found 12 feet tall. There's a
Ooh.
what a 17-foot
I thought that was a
rhino.
rat.
17-foot rhino. Imagine that. 8-foot beavers. So that'd be a
Ooh.
beaver taller than most men, right?
I think to have that thing chasing me.
They call it the Jurassic beaver, right? Because they find everything. Here's a 2-foot moth, right? I mean, that's a big moth.
Ugh.
Everything lived longer and grew much larger, just like they do in a hyperbaric chamber today when they test things. That's why mankind lived hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm. It was healthy.
Yeah.
I've asked this question before, and I don't remember what you said, because again, this is like speculation, I guess. But how come we have never found people that actually had died during the flood, or have we?
Well, very few. That's one of the questions that comes up, right?
Oh, I see.
Because there were probably billions of people on the earth before the flood. When you think about the birth rates and how fast things grew, and exponentially, after a few generations, there would have been booming population.
Mm-hmm.
There would have easily been over 1 billion people on the earth at the time of the flood. So where are all the skeletons, right?
Yeah.
But here's what I think. They're buried somewhere, just like we have entire buried forests 200 feet below. We've found these big, huge animal graveyards where there's just massive amounts of animal bones we talked about last time.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that they are somewhere
Buried.
that God has reserved for them purposefully.
What do you mean?
And that's what I think. They are there somewhere. And God has just hidden them. They're buried. They're where we can't find them. Because if you think about it, when all this started happening, they would have all been running and clumping together, probably trying to get to the ark, and people that knew about it. And, so there's probably a huge, or maybe several huge graveyards that are buried.
Well, that's how they're all going to end.
Like under the oceans and stuff?
Maybe.
Yeah. Because there's a reason God did that. We don't know what it is, of course, but obviously God did not want us to find those massive human graveyards. So whatever his reason, that's why we don't see them.
Right in front of you, it's like you need faith.
Well, even if there were evolution, right, there would still be millions and millions of skeletons that we don't find.
Yeah. Because like you said, there's dinosaur graveyards or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see where the dinosaurs were trying to get to higher ground and ended up dying. There's animals that froze right where they were standing.
Yeah.
You don't see any humans.
Yeah. And that's why the ones that froze are still in the ice where it aligned over the poles.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're gonna talk more about this as we're studying. But this is one thing, before the flood, there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. There had never been any rain prior to the flood. There was no rain. There was a mist that came up from the earth. There was the layers above, the layer of water above formed a canopy that made the earth a greenhouse and a hyperbaric chamber. It would have been a pole-to-pole tropical planet before the flood. There might have been a tiny bit of ice in the very extreme poles, but not nearly the amount of ice that the earth has today. And especially not nearly the amount of ice that was on the earth immediately after the flood. Remember, the ice sheets came all the way down, halfway down the United States of America. They were huge, massive ice sheets, and they've been melting for 4,400 years. That's why you have entire cities that are underwater now, because, you know, shortly after the flood, they built them on the edge of the water, and then the ice was melting at an accelerated rate years ago, and so it buried the city.
Yeah, you can go on the internet and look for buried cities and stuff. People just think that it's climate change.
I know.
Yeah, well, it kind of did, but it didn't have anything to do with our modern technology or anything like that. It was because it was a direct result of the flood and the ice from the flood. Yeah.
Bob said there was a little boy when he was a kid drowned, and to this day he's never been found.
Yeah.
So I'm sure what he's saying is like maybe all the bones are just under the water.
And I really think that God purposefully put those bones somewhere where we don't find them. I don't know. We don't know why he would do that, but there's obviously there's a reason, because we don't know where they are. So, and we've never found them. So there's a lot of people that believe this to be true, but there's a lot of people that argue about it. I'm not saying you have to believe it, but I believe that based on all of this evidence and the windows of heaven that are spoken of in the Bible, that there was a layer, we know there was 50% higher oxygen. The fact that everything grew at an accelerated rate and bigger than they do today shows that the earth was like a hyperbaric chamber before the flood. And everything lived longer. That's why reptiles that never stop growing, remember when we talked about dinosaurs, reptiles never stop growing no matter how old they get. So when reptiles were 400 or 500 years old, they were really, really big. That's what the dinosaur bones are, is huge reptiles from before the flood.
They weren't meat eaters either, like you said.
All right, because the scriptures show us that everything was herbivore before the flood. Everything ate plants,
including
and it's only
humans.
After, right? It's only after the flood.
That would have been my ideal place
Everything
to
started eating each
I could
other.
have stayed a vegetarian.
Well, but God also knew that we needed red meat now, because he knew that the corruption in the earth, how the earth is rotting away and wasting away.
Yeah.
And everything is
you need
dying,
it for
as
the
it says in
nutrition,
Hosea chapter 4. Everything's dying and wasting away because of man's sin. And he knew that we would need red meat to have proper nutrition, and especially these last days. Yeah. So that, when you look at that and think about how, and here's one of the things too, in the book of Enoch, it talks about the deluge and the deliverance of Noah. It's a prophecy of the flood from before the flood actually happened. And it talks about this bull, the white bull, and the four bulls, and the white bull and the red bull and the black bull, and the thing that really gets me about this is it says, I raised my eyes toward heaven and saw a lofty roof with 7 water torrents thereon. And those torrents flowed with much water into an enclosure, which is the earth. And I saw again, and behold, the fountains were opened upon the surface of that great enclosure. So the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, as it says in Genesis. Here's the prophecy. But he raised his eyes toward heaven and saw a lofty roof with 7 water torrents. The canopy. I mean, it's just, wow. You know, if you think about what the earth was like before the flood, it was a very, very different place. And all the water that we have now, 70% of the earth is covered in water. And there's massive, massive valleys in the oceans. That's what happened to the water after the flood, is it went down in the valleys and created the mountains and created kind of, sloshed around. And that's why we see entire, 90-degree angles of a cliff with footprints on them, right?
Mhm.
Because it was flat ground before that. So when you look at the firmament and the layers and think about this and what the Bible shows us, it's like, that's when I first saw that,
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. I mean, that is really, and it really makes sense too. It makes so much sense when you think about all of the evidence that we see and everything about what the world was like before the flood. It was a hyperbaric chamber. A hyperbaric chamber that was also a, what do you call it? A
Greenhouse.
greenhouse. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and all that, everything grew so much bigger. And then, so let's continue this study. Well, here's the dinosaurs in the Bible. I want to go straight to here because I want to talk more about this. How the flood changed so much. I probably should change the order of those chapters. But the flood changed so much more. So like I was talking about the magnetic poles. There's the scientific evidence shows us that there were massive swings in the magnetic poles about 4,400 years ago. That's what science shows us. And the magnetic poles are actually not in the same place as the geographic poles. Why? Because the magnetic ice shifted it and changed the magnetic poles slightly when those massive swings happened. Because you would think that the magnetic poles and the geographic poles would be the same, but they're skewed slightly. Happened 4,400 years ago. And when he broke up the fountains of the great deep and the windows of heaven were opened, there was a storm like no other storm. Because if you've ever been where you see geysers, then the geysers that blow from the pressure under the earth and the hot scalding water. Well, under the earth, there's a lot of molten rock, and there's rivers under the earth. There's literally rivers and oceans.
It's so hot. Them geysers are so hot that they just burn your skin right off.
Wow.
Oh yeah, the ones that blow.
Yeah, they're
I've never seen
really
them.
hot.
And there's some water under there that's not hot, but there's a lot that is very, very hot. And when the fountains of the great deep were opened up, and this massive scalding hot water came blowing up into the atmosphere, while at the same time super cold of space was being brought down with the windows of heaven and the waters from above, and that created a storm like the earth has never seen.
That was anger. That was
anger. God. Yes,
Mhm.
that's why he's holding back
fixing
his
to do it again.
anger right now. And that was, yes, God was angry. And that the storm that happened, the fountains of the great deep erupted in the windows of heaven, and the super cold of space is measured at 459.6 degrees below zero. So when that water came down, and it instantly froze animals that still had food in their mouths, that were still walking, standing up. Science says that could not happen unless it was at least 300 degrees below zero. Well, the super cold of space came down, froze it instantly.
Yeah.
And then the storm was blowing everything everywhere, and the water was just going. If you can imagine, for 40 days and 40 nights, the rain was pouring down. And if you've ever been to the tropics and been in a tropical rainstorm,
It's crazy.
that's probably just a little tiny taste of what that rainstorm was.
But that's because
It was
God was
buckets.
angry at what had happened with
Well,
mankind.
the wickedness of man was evil.
Yeah.
And, you know,
It wasn't
it
gonna
was
be a
only
sprinkle.
evil continually, and he loved violence, and God just said, I'm done. It repented him that he'd even made man.
Yeah, so I can see a big storm like that.
Yeah. And that's what happened to the earth when that was taking place for 40 days and 40 nights. Was this massive storm that just for 40 solid days.
Wow.
And then for another 150 days, the waters were sloshing around, and the ocean floors sank, and the waters would slosh. And then after 150 days, the waters started to abate. And it took another 150 days for the waters to go down. And it was a full year before the flood was over and there was dry land for Noah to get out of the boat.
You
a
mean
full
40
year.
days? You mean a year after the 40 days or in total?
No, year total is a little slightly over, or it's either slightly over or slightly under. I'd have to go do the math again, but it's right about a year, including the 40 days. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and that's what I talk about in here, right? In order for them to be frozen solid while they're still eating their food
Yeah.
without falling over and dying, the temperature had to be at least 300 below zero. And it had to happen very, very fast because they froze instantly.
Bob said maybe that's what happened to the bodies in the Great Flood. The way they got it sloshed around much.
I think that they're buried way down deep somewhere. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where they wouldn't recover them, like in the water, the
Right.
oceans.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then so the windows of heaven were opened, and that layer just came down and froze everything solid. And then because it was magnetic at 300 degrees below zero, it aligned over the poles, which also created massive, massive change to the surface of the earth as the ice was being dragged around by the magnetic pull, by the
Can we,
magnetic
like,
pull.
See those little pictures?
So these show the ice sheets in the state that they were after the flood. They came all the way down, halfway down the United States, the ice sheets. And there was a lot more water on the planet, or I'm sorry, there was a lot more land, exposed land. This is a map of what the land masses would have looked like. There was a lot more, like here's Florida down here, right? You see how big that is?
Yeah, it was a lot wider.
This is science data. These are not creationists. These are scientists that show that the land mass used to be twice as big at Florida. This was Florida years ago, right? This is China, right? Where there was way more. Look at all the land mass in China that was there. You know, this is what the earth looked like.
Yeah.
And animals literally migrated across the world after the flood by walking there.
Mm-hmm.
They just walked there before the ice had completely melted and the sea levels had risen. They were able to walk to literally every continent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah, what's that?
yeah, there's lots of things that I talk about in here. Let's go back up to the top though. This is another thing, right? It shows the ice sheets and it shows all the animals and where they were, and you know, it just animals were everywhere.
Yeah.
After the flood, God caused them to migrate all over the world. God caused them to do that. Just like God caused them to go to the ark. God caused the animals to go to the ark so Noah could put them on the ark.
Yeah.
And then he caused them to
He didn't
migrate
hurt 'em
around the
all,
world.
huh?
And then here's a map showing all the features that prove the ice sheets because this is the evidence left behind after the ice melts that we see every time there's any kind of a storm that creates ice and then the ice melts. All of this stuff happens, right? There's just all kinds of evidence that science shows that there used to be ice in these areas. I'm sorry, these areas here.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had the wrong maps up. In these areas, right? There's so much evidence of the washouts and all the different things that prove there was ice. And so there's just so much evidence in science. I mean, we talked about how science really debunks evolution. Science debunks everything and they're lying about everything. We talked about that in the first couple of lives. And now we're looking at what really happened after the flood and how science shows it to be true. Science shows us that the earth was once covered with much more ice than it is today. And it was immediately after the flood. It was 4,400 years ago. And there's footprints baked into the mud, right? Obviously the footprint was made when it was soft, but then it was baked into stone. And there's massive amounts of footprints all over the earth that prove that at some point in time, there was soft, pliable earth that was suddenly hardened and baked into stone. Just like you if you make a clay pot, right? And you put it in the kiln in order to harden it, you heat it. Well, the hot scalding water that came up from the earth fired all of the earth and turned it to rock. That's why you have so much rock and then places where it's bent and twisted. Like this is solid rock. And you can see how it was pliable and then squeezed together and then formed into solid rock. If you took earth and kind of squished it together, it would kind of fold like that. That's what happened. And we see evidence of it all over the world. All of these. This is rock, bent and twisted. That didn't come from millions of years of layering. That came from an event that formed all that rock in a huge, massive event. Here's the thing. Look at it's just
trees on the side of a rock.
And look at this, just a U-shape rock. How does that happen over millions of years of layering?
Right.
It happened at an event. It was soft when it was folded. And then the hot scalding water fired it and heated it and turned it to rock.
Last week you were talking about how, I don't know where it was now, but you said you showed a picture of how the river went like that. Turned onto itself. There's another place that I saw on TV where it looked like that. I was watching a movie or something, and it just happened to show that same thing. It just came around in a circle. Nature isn't going to just do that on its own.
No,
and especially not a rushing mighty river that carved the Grand Canyon, right? It didn't come back on itself. That's so silly. So these are things that just, when we look at the scientific evidence and look at what the Bible says and know about the flood, there's a lot that, and I mean, sure, we can speculate that there was a canopy, but the Bible literally says that there was water
A
above,
roof.
and the windows of heaven were opened, and it came pouring down for 40 days. There was water above that's not there anymore. There was another layer to the earth that does not exist anymore, or above the earth, not to the earth, a layer in the firmament, right? A layer of waters, because remember, there's waters above and waters below, plural. There's multiple layers. And it's just, when you think about what really happened in the creation and how God set things up, and then what happened at the flood, and all of the evidence that we see really proves a massive global flood happened. And, even every single culture in the world has a legend, a myth of some global flood.
Yeah.
Every single culture in the world has
Yep.
a legend of a flood.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. One I saw on TV, I guess it was a documentary I was watching. They actually believed that there was a man and a woman that started it all, but it wasn't Adam
Yeah,
and
that's
Eve.
Oh,
when they
I
look
see.
at the genetics of the entire
A man
human
and a
race,
woman. Oh,
they
wow.
concluded that it came from one man and one
They
woman.
flooded
I
the
saw that.
earth.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, there's evidence of mass extinction, right? Like that massive graveyard that I showed you last time. And, you've got mammoths in Texas, right? Prehistoric mammoths, right? In Texas. You've got animals all over. You've got all of the mountain chains are covered with seashells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single mountain chain, at the top of the mountain chain, you find seashells. Tell
Well, like
me
you were
there
saying,
wasn't a club.
jellyfish, fossilized jellyfish.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's literally impossible for a jellyfish to fossilize unless it happens very quickly,
Yeah.
because they would just dissipate to nothing. They're almost
Yeah.
all water.
I know, like
Yeah.
on the beach, you just see like an imprint.
Yeah.
It's not
And
there
it's
anymore.
gone.
It's just the imprint.
Yeah, very quickly. Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mammoths in Florida, all kinds of animals all over the earth, all kinds of different types of animals everywhere, buried together all over the world.
Yeah.
And science can't explain that. And they try to avoid the question entirely because they can't. And then, like I said, there's science data that the magnetic poles took 6 violent swings about 4,000 years ago, according to science. And then the ice sheets have been melting for 4,400 years. This is another thing. People say that the ozone, there's that hole in the ozone. Well, for your information. Oh, this is another thing. Methane, they're saying that it's the gases from us and from cow farts and everything that are creating, all this climate change. Well,
Duke farts.
this methane finding baffles scientists, because guess where they found the massive, massive clouds of methane gas? Over the jungles.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Because plants produce greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they're trying to blame our cars and cows, and it's just they're lying through their teeth.
Hairspray.
Yeah, they're lying through their teeth because they want to establish control of us, and they've got so many people convinced of this that their lie really has done a really good job of working. But I'm here to help you to dispel those lies. That's what we want to do here. The sun also creates ozone. The hole in the ozone, there's 2 areas of the earth where there's less ozone, and those are on the poles. Why? because the sun shines less in the poles, and it's the sun that actually creates ozone. So it's only a natural phenomenon that there's less of it at the poles. But they try to say, oh, we're destroying the ozone. It's so crazy. There's no hole that man is creating. It's naturally thinner because the sun doesn't shine as strong in the poles. It's just so absolutely insane what they try to convince us of. So I showed you where, the land masses, a lost city, right? It was once an extensive port city on the sea shore, right? It was an extensive port city on the ocean, but it's now completely underwater. Why? Because after the flood, there was a lot of ice and it started melting. And then it reached a tipping point where the cold would have kept it cold, and it would melted fairly slowly until it reached a certain tipping point where it started warming up enough where there was massive ice melt centuries ago, probably, probably 3,000 years ago, right? Where it took a while, it took a few hundred years to reach that tipping point, but then the ice really started melting. And then so over the next few hundred years, the sea levels rose a lot, which is why this kind of stuff happened. And then, but it's kind of leveled off, right? We see how over the past 40 years, we have Google Earth documentation where we see the ice packs waxing and waning, right? Going up and down, and it's actually grown by hundreds of millions of tons of ice in the last few years, right? It's grown. The ice has grown because it's reached a point where it's stabilized with our current atmosphere. So there's so many things. Here's I think I showed you the other one from Colorado, but there's just these massive graveyards of animal bones, because what happens at a flood?
Things get
Right?
tossed around.
Here's where they're slowly but surely exposing the bones, and
What are they?
Just an array of different
all kinds of different bones,
animals and probably
Yeah.
people.
large reptiles, animals.
Yeah.
The thing is, they don't really find a lot of human bones
I
among
know.
those
So see,
graveyards.
that's just kind of weird.
Yeah,
That is kind of weird. It could have been in the ocean, the bottom of the ocean.
yeah, and I think that was to me. It seems like God must have done that on purpose. He must have gathered them and kept them out of our reach. Yeah. And it's the same reason he teaches in parables. He doesn't want us to know. Imagine if we found all of those bones
And found out they were only 3,000 years old.
and we found
or
such a
whatever.
mixture of types of bones that we think are different evolutionary stages, but they're all together.
Oh, yeah.
It would totally dispel the lie of evolution. But God wants those people that hate him to believe what they want to believe.
Right.
He did
They
it on
have to
purpose.
search the truth. They have to be willing to say, Lord, I want the truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah. But these bone jumbles, it's like if you've ever been anywhere where like even if like your yard flooded, right? If even something as small as that, you notice that when the waters recede,
Yeah.
a lot of branches and stuff got clumped together. Tree branches got clumped together.
Well, yeah,
and all the garbage got all clumped together and kind of left it in little patches here and there as it receded. Well, that's what happened at the flood.
See, we've been in this house for 10 years, and the people before us had little children. And we are still finding little tiny toys
The
and
toys
stuff in
surface.
the yard.
We have a massive rain here and the toys
will
surface.
surface,
And
and
it's funny.
I think they're just buried in the sand in
Yeah.
the yard, and
Yeah.
they're
From
little
birthdays and stuff.
pieces. They're like a wheel to a little
Yeah,
car,
little kids' toys. Yeah, that's funny.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're still, even after 10 years, we are still finding like little Lego piece,
Yeah,
a little
Yeah,
wheel
all kinds
to
of
a
stuff.
like a
little
truck,
tiny
or
little model cars. And
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
little Barbie shoes.
yeah. So a few other things.
Yeah.
A few other things I want to try to get through here. Remember, I talked about Glen Rose, Texas.
Yeah. We were there.
Well, here's a really good example of a dinosaur track alongside a man track. I mean, how obvious can you get that man and dinosaur lived together at the same time? You know, there's the other one I showed you where the dinosaur footprints actually squishing the mud up into the human footprint, so you know that it came after the human footprint.
Yeah, we were
You know?
there. We were at that one.
Yeah.
We were in Glen Rose.
Yeah, we were in Texas. Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, here's the excavations, you know, where they're doing it. And remember, what they're doing here is they're actually taking layers of rock. They're taking a rock layer and digging that rock layer out and finding these footprints underneath the top rock layer in another layer of rock. So those footprints were created, the rock was laid down, and then another layer came on over top of it and turned to rock. Yeah, the flood was a massive, massive event. Here's, you can't see it very well, but here's the human heel. You can actually see the toes in the footprint. And then this is a massive dinosaur footprint where the human footprint's right in the middle of it. Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. And people will deny, oh, that's fake. It's fake, you know, but they're finding so many different of these footprints and things that, you know, tell me how they faked footprints underneath a layer of rock. You know, it's just, come on. Here's the article I showed you before with the, you know, the fossilized tree sap, you know, where it was 50% more oxygen. The ground sloth, with the whale, trees with fish. I mean, just so many different types of animals and fish and even people, you know, together, just everywhere.
They should be able to test, and that's the thing. They should be able to test a human bone. They do it all the time and find out how old that bone is.
Well, they lie about it.
Well, they will lie, but I'm saying they should be able to tell, because they do it all the time when they're solving murders and stuff. They'll find out that the body is only 20 years old.
They can tell by the amount of decay from
but they can say how old the person is.
But when you go and find a bone lodged in a fossilized bone lodged in rock, you don't have the same testing that you can do with a buried body.
Oh, because it's so old that the DNA is gone.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. So here's just some stuff, right? Here's a fossilized bone and is that a modern boot? You know,
that's kind of creepy.
So
I wonder whose
things.
bone that belonged to.
You know, here's a bottle encased in rock. A man-made bottle. You know, the idea that fossilization takes millions of years is ridiculous. Here's a fossilized prunes. They were left in someone's refrigerator.
Ah!
You didn't do that. Did you ever do that?
You know, it depends on where the artifact is lying, how moist the ground is. Things can fossilize in just a couple of years. It only takes a couple years for something. There's an axe that was buried, turned to stone before it was found a couple of years later.
And see, that's what Annie did in her videos, is that she's finds where they do the study and she inserts it into that.
Yeah. So definitely watch the videos. It's right here at the bottom of this page. You can click on that and go to it. The creation flood. It's the chapter 27. You know, I've got it linked at the bottom of a lot of the pages. So, you know, and then coal, supposed to take tens of thousands of years to be created, right? Remember we saw the picture of the drill bit embedded in the coal? Well, it doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
It can turn to coal in a year or less.
Oh my God.
1 year. Yeah. Remember the stalactites and stalagmites? I mean, there's just, you know, and then a diamond. A diamond is supposed to take immeasurable, you know, compression and millions of years, but they can create a diamond.
Yeah.
I got the
does not
video on
take
there
that.
showing how they make a diamond.
Yeah, that's in the video
That's
that
in
you
the
did.
video,
You actually show them making a diamond. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't take tremendous pressure and millions of years. It just takes the right environment. That's all.
Remember we talked about it, like we should make some diamonds.
Yeah. Well, the process of making the diamond is too expensive. It doesn't really pay for itself. But they've
I
proven that
always
you
have
can
these
do
really great ideas, and you just
it. Well, that would be a great idea. But if they could make diamonds and
And
make
you
money
throw
from
up
it,
all over my
they
great
would already
idea.
be doing it. So, yeah. So we're out of time, and I'll end there. We'll go back and we'll talk about the dinosaurs in Job, and then the last few chapters we'll wrap it up on Sunday when we come back. So I hope that was fun and entertaining and maybe educational. And you know, when I don't say all these things like I'm so smart and I know all this stuff. I didn't know any of this stuff, you know, before I learned it. And when I learned it and I studied it more and I added a lot to my knowledge by really digging into it and studying and looking at other evidence from all kinds of different sources. And all I'm doing is showing you what I've learned. You know, I learned it at some point, and, you know, we all have to learn at some point. We all have to learn the truth. You know, we all have to dispel the lies from the church. At some point, we have to learn by reading the Bible. We have to learn prophecy by studying it and putting all of the pieces together. We learn about creation versus evolution. We learn about what science shows us by, and granted, it's really hard to find the science today because especially with the internet and the scrubbing of data and the what's the word I'm looking for? The censorship. Sorry. It was right there. They're censoring so much, and even AI is being trained to teach you the lies so that you're like, well, AI is saying it, so it must be true, you know. But we've shown you how AI even admitted, ChatGPT even admitted that it's programmed to gain our trust so that it can then start lying to us and start changing things and make us believe it. You know, they're using AI just like they did search engine censorship and social media censorship. You know, we saw how they did it for COVID and the vaccine stuff, and just, it was amazing. You know, people, I've had videos deleted. I've had videos deleted for talking about Islam and just simply telling you the truth about Islam. I had videos deleted during COVID for talking about the vaccine. You know, just so many things and they're still doing it. They have not stopped. Don't think that they have, and don't think that AI is going to change anything except to make it worse. So, anyway, let me pray and I'll actually say goodbye now. Thank you, Lord, for everything. Thank you for showing us your truth, for revealing it to those that love you. Thank you for preserving your truth in your word, Lord, and not allowing man and Satan to destroy it. but you preserved it for us, Lord. We're so grateful. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all you've done, for all you're doing, and all you're about to do. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Okay. So Bob and Jody, and Bob said, great study, Dan.
Thank you, Bob.
David and Jay.
Yeah. And it's good
Thank
to see
you
you lately, David.
David.
Glad
Yeah.
to see you here. And Jay, as
David
always.
usually works, so
Yeah.
he has to watch later.
Yeah. Love you all.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
guys for being in chat and showing up. And for those who do not participate in chat, it's okay.
Yeah, we're
All
just
right.
glad you're here.
These people like to come in, they like to say hello and all that, but it's been that way forever, so that's okay. Anyway, so I am going to say, give a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, or go to Rumble, and please follow us over there. Make sure you share this video with everybody if you like what we're doing, and please turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any great, fabulous videos.
Yeah. So, thank you, Diane.
And thank
Appreciate
you for coming in, even if it was just
Yeah.
a tad late.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're glad you're here.
Yes.
So, and thank you, darling, for
Jody's-
co-hosting. I know it's a challenge sometimes.
Why?
And
Why?
I just always appreciate you. And I just wanted to say so.
Oh,
We
Thank you.
love you.
I know. I
Thank
love
you
you
all.
too. Jody said, thank you guys. Have a good night. Love you. You
right,
too,
love you,
Jody.
Jody.
Love you so much. So we will see everybody next Sunday.
On Sunday.
Wow.
And then-
Sunday.
We're going to wrap up the creation versus evolution on Sunday, and then we're going to go right into a rapture tribulation study.
There you go.
Uh,
There you
Sure
guys
you'll
go.
like that.
Off.
So we will see everybody. David. Okay. We are signing off now. We love you guys. See you next
Love you all.
Sunday.
See you Sunday.